How often do you use the print version of the Yellow Pages?
Not very often. I typically Google something that I need to know, but I do have it at home, and in a pinch, it's in the kitchen drawer, maybe a couple times a year.
Not very often.
Maybe about once a month.
Probably once a month or so.
Not very often.
Almost never.
I never use the paper phone book Yellow Pages.
Very rarely.
The actual phone book, never. Really, and I look at every so often to see who's advertising in there, but if I need something myself, I just, use online resources or use my iPhone.
Lately, seldom. Actually, seldom.
I'd have to say almost never. I mainly pick them up off my doorstep and, set them away or use them for firewood or something like that, but that's about it.
I use that about 2 or 3 times a week, and no more than that.
So you rely more on the Yellow Pages than you do the internet for finding local businesses?
No, I go on the internet. I find that the internet has more to it than the Yellow Pages. I think a lot of people are finding out that the internet is the way to go, and they're pulling out of the Yellow Pages.
And how do you find local business services and products?
Online.
On the internet.
Usually I'll do an internet search. I'll use Google Maps to see where a business is located. And usually if it's closer to me or if they have a good online store and interface, then I'll see what they have and make my adjustments from there. And so I use it a lot.
I usually do use the internet and find that to be quite the best way to do it.
Locally, I think Google still, yeah.
I usually use the computer.
Do you use Yahoo, Google, Bing?
Google.
I go to Google and I type in their name and something comes up with a phone number.
Usually Google.
How often do you use Google?
I don't know, probably 30, 40 times a day, minimum.
Probably once a week.
Daily.
Probably daily.
Probably 2 or 3 times a day.
Daily.
Multiple times a day.
Probably just about every day.
I use Google every day. It's where I get my news, where I get my email. I can stay in touch with everybody that I know. That way, it's almost like an extension of my own arm, if you want to say it that way.
Several times a day.
I use it a lot.
When you're doing a search, how do you actually choose what to click on?
Usually I look at how relevant it is to me, and if the site looks, legit, if it looks professional, if it looks nice.
Usually what's at the top of the page.
I try and find the smaller businesses. I don't like the big banner ads that come up. I always try and go to the actual web pages and see if I can find an actual business.
Usually I will look for the first line of, the description and how close it comes to what I'm actually looking for. So the first line. But I'll usually look at the first 5 anyway, because I find that they're usually the ones that will have what I'm looking for.
I usually use more than one keyword. And so I read whatever the description underneath the title, and then I decide which one I think is going to be best for what I'm looking for.
Usually it's within the, like I said, the first couple pages of what I'm actually looking for.
I usually read those top 3 or 4 options and click on one of them. I think whichever one looks best, I guess.
I just read what's written there, and if it sounds like what I need, then I click on it.
Depends on what the keywords under the highlighted line is.
Usually I just start with whatever comes up first. I look in the lines and see if a phone number happens to be there, and if a phone number's there, that's the one I pick.
How often do you go past the first page of results when you're doing a search on Google?
About 80% of the time. Sometimes I use the wrong keywords to get in and find somebody, so I'll be on the 3rd or 4th page before I find what I'm actually looking for.
Only if I need to. If I don't see a number in the line in the context, then I'll sometimes do that.
Hardly ever. Usually it's on the first page what I'm looking for.
No, I've been known to scroll down toward the bottom, but I usually click on something that's in that first top, 5 or 6. I don't think I've ever gone to the next page.
Sometimes. Usually, though, it's top from bottom, and that's how I determine where I'm going to click next.
Never.
For a local business, it depends. If I'm looking for a very specific business, then yeah. But if I'm looking for, bookshops, I'm gonna look for the first, top 5, because usually right after that, there's gonna be spam, or you're gonna find something in Connecticut back east or something like that. So relevancy is mostly dependent on Local. If it's local, then yeah, then it's got to be on the first page, I think.
Occasionally.
I actually do. I actually a lot of times dig deeper just to see what's out there, and really see kind of what kind of results come back.
So it's the first 5 results.
Yeah, but I do go past the first page often just to see who's not on the top of the heap.
Very rarely. Only if I'm looking for my name. No, I don't.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
Occasionally.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how important do you think it is for a local business to be found easily on the internet?
It's very important. I mean, it's definitely a 10, maybe even 15, 20. If they have a good online interface and you can find it, then it's a lot easier to get your research done rather than having to call around town, see where everything is. It's all about making it easier for the customer. If you can make it easy for the customer to use it, then, the more likely you are going to be to use it.
On a scale of 1 to 10, I'd say definitely 9 or 10.
Very 10 plus.
I'd say very important. Oh, 10, I guess that is.
I would say a 10.
Probably a 10.
A 10.
Very important, probably a 10.
I'd say 10.
I think it's huge. 10 being the most important, probably a 10.
I think it's very important. Having had 2 businesses of my own, at this point, I don't know that I would use the Yellow Pages at all. I know how expensive they can be, and even from my iPhone, I'll Google stuff, from directions to services, and I think it's really important. And I think that it's worth the effort to make sure that you can get as close to the top as you can, and that would mean just trying to cover all the information that people might be looking for, especially with what you offer.
It is very important. I think that if a person's business isn't within the first 2 or 3 pages, that they're losing. They're definitely losing business.